All right, on that note, it's time to shift gears and shift tracks a little bit, this time to the world of auto. And the focus of the world of auto is at the moment on lots of SUVs that have now flooded the market. So we thought we'll bring you a review. We'll compare the Mahindra XUV 3XO, the Kia Sonet and the Renault Kiger. This is what happened when we raced them against each other.
Now, the last time we put a bunch of compact SUVs together, the Renault Kiger stood out just on the back of how much it offered to you for less money than the competition. But things have moved on quite a bit since then, and now a vast features list and a premium image are a must-have to stand out, which brings us to the Kia Sonet and the Mahindra 3XO. These are the two newest contenders in this space, and let's see how they perform. At this point, you might be wondering why we don't have a Tata Nexon here, but we did ask for one to be featured in this test but hadn't received a response from Tata Motors by the time of filming. Now, given the length constraints in this segment, car makers have to work quite hard to still make these practical SUVs. And the Kiger is a great example of this. It has 405 litres of boot space. That's the most out of these three cars here. And the way Renault has carved out this space is a theme that all three have followed, but with slightly different results. It has been carved out with this quite high lip and a very low floor. So what you see is, yes, for a family of four, if you pack lightly, you will have enough space, but putting stuff in and putting stuff out is slightly difficult. Now, another positive of the Kiger is that the sides are flat, which means that you can stack things up vertically easier. Now, at 385 litres, the smallest boot among the three cars is of the Sonet, but in practice, things aren't all that bad. To start with, you have quite a low lip, and even the floor is fairly high, so a heavy bag is very easy to sort of place inside. And then the back seat is pushed really quite further forward, so it has that depth to fit in quite a bit more stuff than you would otherwise think. Now, one of the problems with the XUV 300 was its boot space, and Mahindra has tried to address it with the 3XO, and there have been some improvements. But as you can see, it's still a bit of a tough ask. Like the Kiger, you have a high lip and the floor is low, which is one of the changes that have been made. So yeah, lifting up heavy stuff is going to be the order of the day. And then you also realize that the length of the boot isn't quite as much as the other two, so I've had to make this one stand vertically, which is going to be a bit of an issue. And you also have these wheel arches that intrude into space, so packing things in is going to be quite an ask compared to the other two. But you get these hooks which are quite sturdy, and like the other two cars here, you get a 60-40 split. See these three cars together and it's clear that a tighter budget doesn't need to look restrained on the road. The Renault Kiger is the narrowest and shortest car here, and it does show in its more compact stance. But it is probably the most cohesively styled, packing a good deal of aggression into its footprint. In contrast, the Mahindra XUV 3XO stands out with its size. Its origins as the C-segment SUV are clear with its wide and flat stance. While much of the bodywork has been carried over from the last car, the new face breaks from the norm with its big gloss black panels and the large vertically arranged light clusters. The slightly abrupt side profile still hasn't been fully rectified, but the segment-leading 17-inch wheels help somewhat in this regard. Further, the reworked boot with the full-width lighting has brought a good deal of style to this Mahindra. The Kia Sonet is probably the most polished-looking one of the lot here, especially when paired with the rich paint options and differentiated front styling you can have with the various specs. The wider new lighting and grille add a good deal of mass to the Sonet, and the general quality of these adornments seem better than the other two cars here. Like the Mahindra, the rear with a similar full-width light arrangement compensates for slightly awkward proportions. Now yes, compared to the XUV 400 that's here, you do maybe miss out on soft materials. Most of this is hard plastic except for some bits here and here, whereas the Mahindra will give you soft surfaces all over the dash, even on the door cards here. So in that sense, it feels like a bit of a step down. But where the Kia really surpasses the Mahindra is, again, in terms of how these switches feel, in terms of generally the weight of the controls, these toggle switches here, the leather stitching, it all feels maybe a slight bit better than the Mahindra. Now the Mahindra, there has been a step up, especially with that new design in the waterfall effect and the lot of gloss black that both these cars use. So that has helped improve it. And there too you get a big bank of buttons in the middle, which are very easy to use, very similar to this. But yeah, in terms of the heft and the tactility of controls, it's really not quite at par with what the Kia has to offer. Now, where does the Kiger fit into all of this? Remember, it's 5 lakhs cheaper than the other.
All right.